જય જિનેન્દ્ર બધાને. My apologies, આ જરા મોડું થઈ ગયું. I was running a bit late. આપણે પ્રાર્થનાથી શરૂઆત. We'll start with the prayers and then we'll carry on. My apologies, I'm running late today. નમો અરિયંતાણમ નમો સિદ્ધાણમ નમો આયર્યાણમ નમો વત્સાયાણમ નમો લોએ સપ્પ સાહુણમ એસો પંચનમકારો સપ્પ પાવપણાસણો મંગલાણંચ સપ્પેસિમ પરમમ હવૈ મંગલમ વીર સર્વસુરા સુરેન્દ્ર મહિતો વીરંબુદા સંશ્રિતા વીરેણાભ્યત સ્વકર્મ નિચયો વીરાય નિત્યમ નમઃ वीरातीर्थमिदं प्रभुतमतुलं वीरशघोरं तपो वीरे श्रीधृति कीर्तिकान्तिनिचय श्रीवीरभद्रं दिश अंगूठे अमृतवसे लप्तितणा भंडार श्री गुरु गौतम समरिये मनवांछित फलदातार. Welcome to the 9th class in our introduction to Jainism. Today we are going to talk about Jain rituals. Some of you have asked for more information, but what we will be covering today will be very basic, just an introduction, some understanding of the various rituals, but we won't have time to go into the depth of any one of them. But I'm hoping that what I discussed today will give you a flavor of how important and how deeply meaningful all our rituals are. Okay. Let me just start sharing my slides. Okay. So the focus will be on understanding the rituals, but also trying to get a bit deeper into why do we need rituals. I know a lot of us have in the past found it difficult about the importance of rituals, but also I think it reflects the difficulty that some of the older generation like myself have found difficult to maybe explain to young people as to why we do certain things as we do them, and what is the importance of following the steps that are dictated in our spiritual literature. So we'll understand some of those intricacies and we'll understand the main rituals that we perform that hopefully most of you have had some experience with, or at least been exposed or heard the words. And as normal, we'll talk about process, outcome, we'll listen, reflect, debate, question, internalize, and incorporate in life. So we'll be talking about rituals in a temple, whether it's a home temple or whether it is a temple as in at Oswald Center or any of the other temples in, or say for example in Kenton, the temple in Colindale and any of the other temples or the temples in India. And the rituals that we generally perform in an upashray or a hall that we have hired for those purposes, the halls that we hire during Paryushan. So these rituals are not conducted inside the temple. So these rituals are conducted in a hall which is called upashray. So any hall that we temporarily use is in fact an upashray for that purpose, for that time. So in the temple we do puja, and we'll come to the various types of puja. Darshan and puja is included in the term puja, but I think a lot of us just understand puja as meaning what we do near Bhagwan, but the most important puja is what we do internally within our mind when we are having a dialogue with our Tirthankar Bhagwan. And ritual in Upashray, the two main ones that are conducted there are Samaik and Pratikraman. You all know about Pratikraman, but we'll talk about Samaik as well. Today is Kartik Purnima. A lot of you would know today is the 15th day of the month of Kartik. It's full moon today. And this is an auspicious day, not just for Jains, but it's also an auspicious day for followers of other religion. This is also the day when Jain ascetics start their vihar, meaning they move from the place that they've been staying during the monsoon months and they start moving. So as some of you probably know, all our monks and nuns stay in one place during the monsoon months because it is not allowed for them to move from place to place during those 4 months unless very necessary. So they generally stay in one place for 4 months, that is the rainy season, and on this day they start their vihar, meaning they move from this place where they've been staying for 4 months and start moving to other places and continue with their vihar a few days here, a few days there for a period of 8 months, and then again as the monsoon season starts they would stay in one place. It is also an important religious day for Jains because on this day the temples on Satrunjay Mount open up generally for pilgrimage. People don't normally go on pilgrimage during the monsoon months, but on this day the temples are obviously always open, but the pilgrims, the yatralu, don't go there generally, except in exceptional circumstances during the monsoon months, and the pilgrimage would start today. And on a massive scale, today you would have seen a huge number of people doing their pilgrimage, doing their puja and everything on Mount Satrunjay, just in Palatala. As per the Hindu scriptures, today is the day Kartik Purnam when Lord Shiva slayed the demon Tripasura, also known as Tripuri Purnima. This day is, instead of Kartik Purnima, it's also known as Tripuri Purnima. And it also marks the day when Lord Vishnu appeared in the form of Matsai on the eve of this day. It's also celebrated by Sikhs as Guru Prab or Prakash Parva, the birthday of Sri Guru Nanak Dev, the first Guru of the Sikhs. So it's an auspicious day today. Yesterday was 14th day of the Shukla Paksh, meaning the ascending moon, and that was Chaudas, and yesterday was the Chaudas, which is held every 4 months. So the followers actually performed the 4 monthly Pratikraman yesterday as well. What happens here, a lot of you probably know, your parents may have gone to the temples to do Satrunjay Pat Darshan. I think we had an event at Oswal Center where Jayesh Bhai would have conducted the Satrunjay Pat Darshan for all those who went there, and there is a broadcast of a previous episode of this for those who could not go there but wanted to do it on Zoom at home. So it's a ritual pilgrimage in front of the depiction of Satrunjay Mount, Palitana, and it's conducted in a way as if you are actually going from the bottom to the various stops that you come across as you go up along the mountain. So it starts from the foothill to the top of the Satrunjay mountain, and it is enacted in the way that one would normally do it live physically. Jain temples are the representation of Tirthankar Bhagwan in a Samvassaran. We'll come to that and show exactly what is a Samvassaran in a few minutes. There is a Samvassaran or Samvassaran temple at the foothill of Palitana. Those of you who've been there have probably seen this temple. You can see it as you approach the steps. You can see it on your right hand side, and a lot of us may go there before we climb the mountain, or we may go there after we have come down from the mountain. So this is the Samvasan temple in Palitana. There are other temples made in a similar way. What is a Samvasaran or Samvasaran? From the time a Tirthankar Bhagwan achieves Keval Gnan and he sort of establishes a Tirth, as it's called, he establishes a fold of monks, nuns, householders, men and women. So that is called Chaturvid Sangh, meaning 4 different aspects: Sadhu, Sadhvi, Shravak, Shravika, monks, nuns, men householders and women householders. That Sangh is established by the Tirthankar from the day that they achieve Keval Gnan, meaning total knowledge, or achieve omniscience. And from that day onward till the time of their Nirvana, meaning when they leave the body and the soul goes to moksha, until that time, the devs are constantly an accompaniment of the Tirthankar Bhagwans, and everywhere that the Tirthankar Bhagwan goes, wherever he is staying, they will create this structure or edifice. It's called a Samvasaran. It is created in 3 levels around an Ashok Vruksh or Ashok tree, and it is made of precious metals and jewels, and there are different structures on all 3 levels. Level 1 is, as you can see in this very nicely done picture, is where the vehicles of people who have come using vehicles would stay. Level 2 is where all animals who have come to listen to Bhagwan Mahavir's Deshna would sit there in patience without actually remembering any of their natural enmities. So you would have miraculous sights of a deer sitting next to a tiger and a lion, and all those natural enmities are forgotten in that place. So they would be coming there. And on the top level, around the Ashok tree, the Tirthankar Bhagwan sits in one direction, and the Devs will create an image, a murti of them in the other three directions, which represents the Tirthankar Bhagwan and is created in exactly the same sort of color as the Tirthankar Bhagwan's skin is, same size and exactly the same. So whoever is sitting in whichever direction would actually see a live Tirthankar Bhagwan, so to say. But Tirthankar Bhagwan himself or herself is sitting in one direction, but in another direction there is the image which is exactly like, or it's a not an image as we understand it, but by an image I mean a murti, which is like what we see in Derasar, but it would be appear much more alive than what we see. And in the topmost tier, the monks, nuns, householders, men and women, devs and devis would be sitting there. And as you can see in this picture, there are entrances on all four sides. So people would be coming in from all directions. There are, you can see the depiction of uh, vehicles. I don't know what else to call it, but they are, the correct term is Dev Viman. They are the planes that the Devs would normally use, and you can see them floating at the top there near the tree. And you can see people coming, going up, and others sitting at the top. And this is similar with all Tirthankars, and a temple is a depiction of a Samvatsaran as if we are sitting in front of a Tirthankar Bhagwan. This is our Jain temple in Portis Bar, which we all know. So temple represents Tirthankar Bhagwan in a Samvatsaran. The Murti is to be treated as a living entity and respected as that. Even though it's a depiction, it is a murti which has gone through the rituals of what is called Anjan Salaka, meaning that life is poured into it through a special ceremony which is generally conducted in India. So our murtis in Portis Bar and all the other temples that we have here would have undergone that ceremony that is conducted by a very senior Acharya Bhagwan. And the eyes are sort of kept in, and by virtue of mantras, the murti basically is a live representation of Tirthankar Bhagwan. So it's to be treated as a living entity. The ritual of worship, it's actually quite detailed, and at some stage when we organize a face-to-face session at the temple, we'll go through the reasons for the various rituals. But just very briefly, the normal standard way of approaching a temple is that as soon as you see the flag of the Jain temple and the Sikhar at the top of it, you bow down to it as if you are entering a holy place. And then as you go near it and enter the temple, obviously, as you all know, we remove our uh, shoes, but generally we would also leave all our valuables and anything else that we would be worried about outside, so that as we enter inside, we go in with a very clear mind with total focus, and we do what is called as Nisihi trick. There are 10 different tricks, means 10 sets of threes. So Nisihi trick, Pranam trick, uh, Parikrama trick, meaning going around 3 times. So these are sort of sets of threes, and each one of them has got a different purpose and a different meaning, but it's quite detailed, and we'll go through that at some stage when we are doing this live. So those three, you enter the temple. First of all, as you enter, you say Nisihi, meaning that I'm leaving all my household worries, thoughts, activities, things outside. I'm entering the presence of the great Tirthankar, and I will not worry about all those things that I have left outside. Once inside, before you start the pujan and darshan, you would say you are allowed to worry about the temple, look at the temple and see if there is anything that needs doing, any chore or task that has been left around, and you would maybe engage in that. But then if you are in your puja clothes, you would enter inside and start what is called Dravya Puja, that part of Dravya Puja which is called Anga Puja. So that would generally be conducted for somebody who is had a bath, a fresh, or a shower, or just a wash, but is wearing specific clothes for the puja, and that is called Ang Puja. And inside the temple, in the very close presence of the Tirthankar Bhagwan's Murti, one would conduct various different pujas. Those are called uh, Jal Puja, that's a puja with water, Jal Puja, Chandan Puja, Pushpa Puja. Chandan Puja is the sandalwood paste that is put on 9 different uh, parts of the Tirthankar Bhagwan's image, the idol that we have in front of us. And then Pushpa is a flower, and those are the various Anga Pujas. So Ang meaning that you are doing the puja very close to the Tirthankar Bhagwan. Then you come out of that central enclosure that is called Gabaro, and you come out into the sort of Rang Mandap of the temple, and there you do what is called Agra Puja. Agra Puja means you are not absolutely close, but you are near, and the pujas that are conducted there are we'll come to those in a minute, but before you start any of the puja, you do what is called Pradakshina trick, meaning you go around the temple 3 times, and that is a representation of mark of respect for Tirthankar Bhavan, and that is normally done in a Samvasaran as well by anybody who goes in there. You go around 3 times, that is a ritual of respect, but also in that ritual you remember that you've been going around the cycles of life and death in all different forms for ages, and you are remembering that, but you are also asking for a path that will end that cycle of life and death and take us to moksha. So that is in some sense, that is the meaning of the Pradakshina trick, and then you start the Ang Puja, and then once you finish that, you start the Agra Puja. The Agra Puja consists of Dhup, meaning the puja that we do with incense, incense sticks, as you've probably all seen, and with a light, with a divo that is called Tup Puja and Deep Puja. Deep is light, the Divo that we have. And then you may also do sort of a dance with the charmer. And a lot of you may have seen a mirror in the front. And the purpose of that is to look at Bhagwan's image and uh, symbolically bring it inside within your heart to remind you that you are now recognizing that image and keeping it close to your heart, because your ultimate aim is to become like Bhagwan. So the deeper meaning behind all this ritual is that you are worshipping somebody because you want to be like them. You are recognizing all the virtues that they have had and everything that they have done to achieve that state, and you also recognize that in reality we all are, or you all, we are the same as the Tirthankar Bhagwan. Our soul has the same capacity to achieve that level of liberation and total knowledge, and in recognizing that, we also understand the path and what we need to do to actually achieve that stage. So this ritual is a reminder of that path. So Agra Puja is Dhup Puja, Deep Puja, Chamar Puja, Darpan Puja. Darpan is a mirror. And then we go a bit further, and on a small patlo or a small table on the floor, we use some akshat. Akshat is rice grains. All these words also have quite a lot of deep meaning, but we won't go into the details of that. But you use akshat and you depict what we see every week at the beginning of our class. I'll just go back to that. This. So we depict this particular image that you have probably seen, made of rice grains. So the four prongs of cycles of four different areas that we keep on moving into. So on the top right hand side, Dev; in the bottom right hand side, Narak; in the bottom left hand side, Tiryanj, meaning five sensed or less than five sensed, but non-human life forms. And on the top, near those three circles in green, depicts the arm of the life of a human being. And there is a certain sequence. So Dev at the top right, Narak at the bottom right, Tiryanj at the bottom left, and Manushya at the top left, which touches the first circle. So the three circles represent Samyak Gnan, meaning the right faith, Samyak Darshan, right faith. The second green dot represents Samyak Gnan, and the third green dot represents Samyak Charitra. So right faith, right knowledge, and right conduct. So to end this cycle of birth and death through all these four different areas where we can be born in, or four different states that we can, or stages that we can be born in, and by adopting right faith, right knowledge, and right conduct, we hope to get rid of our karmas that force us into this cycle of birth and death. And at the end of that, we would want to secure a place in Siddhshila. So that is the yellow bit right at the top with the yellow circle in the middle, and that yellow uh, sort of semi-lunar shape that we can see represents Siddhshila, that is at the top of the universe, where all liberated souls immediately climb up and then get there and stay there permanently. So the soul would be there independently, and that is the place which we call moksha, or that is the state that we call nirvana. And that is where all the Siddh Bhagwans live that we bow down to when we say Namo Siddhanam. So that particular depiction is that of what we would do with rice grains on a small table or a patlu within the derasar, and there are sort of prayers associated with this ritual itself, and those prayers remind us about what all this is about. And then in the center of this swastika you would put uh, a fruit, and on the top near the uh, Siddhshila, where we have depicted the yellow uh, with grains of rice, the Siddhshila, you would put a sweet uh, called Naived. So, Phal Puja and Naived Puja. So these are all the Agra Pujas, meaning that you would do nearer Bhagwan, but outside the main internal sanctum. And following that, one would engage in Bhav Puja. Now, all the Dravya Puja, everything else is in preparation for the Bhav Puja. And when you enter Bhav Puja, you are leaving worries of everything else. You would forget about your Dravya Puja, you would forget about your Ang Puja and your Agra Puja, and you would completely concentrate on the idol of the Tirthankar Bhagwan and start off the Chaitya Vandan. The whole vidhi or the whole ritual is called Chaitya Vandan. Chaitya means temple, Vandan means to worship. So that particular vidhi is called Chaitya Vandan, that particular ritual. And you start off that with, first of all, asking for forgiveness for any living being that you might have harmed on your way to the temple. And that is called Iryavaya Sutra. So all important rituals in Jainism start with that. So first of all, you acknowledge and recognize the sanctity of all life, the oneness of all life, and recognize that each one of us may deliberately or unknowingly are often or always in the process of our daily living, we do harm to all kinds of living things, one sensed, two sensed, three sensed, four sensed, five sensed. And not only that, in our thoughts and words and our deeds, uh, we don't just do harm physically, we would do harm by words, we also do harm by virtue of the bad thoughts that we have. So remembering all those, but in this particular instance, we are just particularly doing a pratikraman for any one, two, three, four, five sense beings that we may have hurt or crushed or killed in our journey to the temple. So this is called Iryavaya, and you would recite the Iryavaya Sutra and then another sutra which says that I am now going to stand in Kausag, meaning I'm going to uh, stand in meditation, and before we stand in meditation, there is a sutra which will give us it's called Anath Sutra, which is basically saying that I'm going to stay completely still. I'm going to sort of voluntarily immobilize my body, remain very clear in my mind, and apart from all the natural phenomena of breathing in and out, of anything that may happen involuntarily, meaning, like, say, for example, one may yawn, one may feel dizzy, one may and move the body. Anything that is done involuntarily is excused, and then the vow is that until I finish this particular kausak, I will stay in one place. So that is why you stand in what is called as a kausak mudra, with your hands by your sides, your eyes looking at the tip of your nose. So they are not actually supposed to be closed. You are supposed to keep them open, but keep them on the tip of your nose, and breathe evenly and recite in this particular ritual before the main Chaityavandan starts. It is usually 4 Namaskar mantra, 4 Naukar, or if you generally you would say 4 Naukar if you don't know the Lokas Sutra. The Lokas Sutra is the sutra of all the 24 Tirthankars' names. It is a prayer to them. So you would say that in that Kausak Mudra where you are standing in silence. Okay. When you do this live, we will demonstrate all this and we'll go through details of this. And I'm hoping that Sandeepa and we can organize a live session at the temple, maybe in a few weeks' time. So that is the first bit of the Bhav Puja. Then you sit down in a certain mudra with your left leg up and your right leg underneath you, and with your arms, with your hands joined together in that kind of a mudra, but normally below at this level. And there are 3 places where you would actually be putting them in this format on your forehead during this Chaityavandan. And the Chaityavandan is basically a number of sutras, and then you recite a stavan, which is something that we hear in the temple. It's a song in praise of the Tirthankar Bhagwans, and so that is the Chaityavandan. At the end of the part that requires us to sit down, we would stand up and finish the Chaityavandan by saying what is a sutra called Aryan Chayanam, and then at the end we would recite one Naukar mantra, and then again the ritual is another stuti which illustrates the virtues of Tirthankar Bhagwan, and that is the process of Chaityavandan. And then you would end your session in the temple by bowing down, by going to the images of the Devs and the Devis. Generally, in a lot of temples, there is an image of Padmavati Mata, there's an image of Kanta Karna Mahavir, there's an image of Nakoda Bhairav, there is an image of Mani Bhadra Veer. So those are different devs which are commonly placed in the temple as somebody who would guard the temple and the Sangh from evil and help us in times of need. So those devs and devis, their images or their murtis are kept in the temple at the back. They are not to be worshipped in the same way as we worship the Tirthankar Bhagwans, because they are not of that status. And once you get out of the temple, you would ensure that you walk backwards, meaning you don't show your back to the Tirthankar Bhagwan's idol, Tirthankar Bhagwan. And when you entered, we said Nisihi, meaning I'm leaving everything behind. And when you go out, you are saying Avasyahi, meaning that I will come back soon. Avasyahi, 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 you would say that 3 times. And this ritual is there to, the whole process may last about anything from 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how engrossed you get in this ritual. And for most people who do them regularly, it's a ritual of joy. It's a ritual which actually gets you set for the day in an extremely positive and an extremely sort of spiritually elevated mood. And this ritual is the ritual of worship, or Dev Darshan Pujan ritual. There are some differences in the ways the rituals are conducted by uh, those following the Digambar faith. So I've mainly stated what's followed in the Swetambar faith. But in Swetambar faith, the Stanakwasi sect do not normally worship in temples, but you can see a Sthanak, meaning a place where prayers and other things are held. So that is the Stanakwasi sect as well. The principles are the same, so there are some differences in the some of the rituals. All of you must have heard of this ritual called Samaik, even if you may not have taken part in it. You must have seen your mother, grandmother, or father, grandfather engage in this on a regular basis. Those of you who may know that once a month at Collindale Jain Center, there is a group Samaik that is conducted by Saurabh once a month on a Saturday. And what do you do during Samaik? So it's a ritual of withdrawing from all sinful activities for 48 minutes, or Be Gadi, or 2 Gadis. A Gadi is 24 minutes. In those 48 minutes, a householder lives like a monk or a nun. There are other rituals where a householder lives like a monk or a nun. One of them is called Paushad. Paushad is something that you would do for half a day, that means 12 hours or 24 hours, day and night. A lot of people do Paushad during Diwali time. Some people in India would also do Paushad during the all 8 days of Paryushan. And other sort of very devout householders would be doing Paushad at other times as well. But we are basically talking about Samaik, which is only done for 48 minutes. But some people engage in about 10 Samaiks, one after the other, during the day. And that is called Desavagasik. That is also another ritual. So the first 2 Samaiks, the first Samaik is when you do Pratikraman in the morning. The last one is when you do the Pratikraman in the evening. And in between they do 8 such Samaiks as well. We will talk about the sutra for the vow of the Samaik and what are the essential requirements for a Samaik. If you look at this picture here, you got somebody who is sitting on a piece of woolen cloth. He's not sitting on the floor. He's got in his right hand what is called a mupati, that is to hold in front of the mouth to uh, reduce any harm to uh, living beings as we are speaking, and it is used when one is speaking. In his lap in the front you see what is called as charovudo. The white bit in the front is made of wool and it is tied around the stick, which in Gujarati is called dandi. So charodo, the dandi of the charodo. There is in the front uh, a book support called a sapado. I'm not sure what the English word for that is, but I do know that similar things were used in medieval England. Uh, and you could probably buy them somewhere here as well, but they are made slightly differently. And on top of that, there is a book that he would probably be uh, on which there would be a Naukarwari. So that is a representation of a guru. We talked about that last time when we were talking about the Panchindiya Sutra. Uh, so this particular uh, book would have the Namaskar mantra, that means Navkar mantra, and this Panchindiya Sutra, which depicts the 36 virtues of a Guru Bhagwant or an Acharya Maharaj. And on top of that, you have a rosary of 108 beads, and that is a representation of a Guru, and you do a Samaik in presence of a Guru. And during those 48 minutes, once you got all these things established, you got a clock on the side that tells you that your 48 minutes are up, and then you finish that ritual. But during those 48 minutes, you would engage in spiritual activity, meditation, reading, spiritual stuff, doing mala, uh, all those things, and you can even listen to discourses from other people. So the group samaik that is done in a group together, we would, for example, we can hold a class like this in a group samaik in the way that is done. And I've been talking with Sandeep Pai, so those of you who may be interested, we could do one samaik like that in a group, and either at Ekta Center or at Porter's Bar. Okay. What is the sutra that we take or say to give the vow of the Samaik? This is the sutra. It's called Karmi Bante Samayam Savajam Jogam Pachkami Jao Nimam Pajwa Sami Duviham Tivi Henam Manam Vayakanam Nakarivina Karvame Tasapante Padikamami Nindami Gariami Apanam Usirami. The words are there in English as well at the bottom, and you can find this in most books of Samaik and Pratikaman. Well, in fact, all of them. This is a vow that one takes at the beginning of the Samaik. The vow means the process of self-experiencing. The word Samaik, Sama, to stay within yourself. The process of self-experiencing, the equality with all the beings in this whole universe, and it means also the prohibiting of new karmas within our from joining or from intermingling of karmas with our soul particles during the specified period of 48 minutes. That means we are avoiding all sinful activities, and this is a ritual prescribed by the omniscience. In this Karmi Bante Sutra, after accepting the vow of Samaik, we should not do any sinful act. We should be away from speaking ill of others and from gossiping unnecessarily. This has been extracted from one of the Jain sites. We should study religious scriptures, and we should pass our time in reading or in learning new religious lessons, and we should turn our bits of rosary. The vow of Samaik means the process of self-experiencing. So that is very briefly what one does in Samaik. Then we talk about Pratikraman. Pratikraman is something that a lot of you must have heard the word. The word Pratikraman means to walk away from pap. Pap thi pacha hatu. Walk away, to go backwards from sin. To step back from sinful activities. To remember and ask for forgiveness. Sorry, my apologies. What you should read here is to remember and ask for forgiveness for all sins that have been committed. There are 5 types of pratikraman that are prescribed, and those are called panch pratikraman. Panch means 5. There's a pratikraman that is done in the evening that some of us are, or a lot of us are probably familiar with, that is conducted during Paryushan. Most of us only do it during Paryushan, but the prescription is for doing it on a daily basis. But during Paryushan, we do it in the evening, so that is called Devsiya Pratikaman, during which you are asking for forgiveness and remembering all the sins that you would have committed during the day. All the sins that you committed during the night, you do the ritual early in the morning, which is called Raya Pratikraman. They're both similar, but there are some differences in the way they are conducted, and the process is slightly different. In the evening, every 14 days on the 14th day of the month, that is Chaudas, you would do what is called Chaudas or Pakhi Pratikraman, that is done every 14 days. That is slightly longer. During Paryushan, we have one of these days in the middle of the 8 days. In the preceding 4 months, so yesterday was the Chaudas or the 14th day of the month of the last 4 months. So that was Chomasi Chaudas, and on that day you do a Pratikaman that asks for forgiveness for any sins committed in the previous 4 months. And then a lot of you probably know about the Pratikaman that is done at the end of the year on the last day of Paryushan called Savantsari Pratikaman, and that is done once a year. I think we have come to the end of our time nearly, but we've got about 2-3 minutes. Kavit, Mira, do we have some time for a couple of questions? If anybody wants to.
There is just one correction that somebody has sent. They've just said, Ajit Bhai, just correction, sweet in the center of the swastika and fruits on the Siddhi Sila.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. You're right. My apologies. So, fruit at the top and sweet in the middle of the swastika. Thank you. My apologies. Thank you. Any questions or any other comments?
I just had one question from myself. I know we haven't gone deep into the rituals aspect, but the 9 when you do the Kesar Puja or the Chandan Puja, and you spoke about the 9 places that we put the Chandan. Is there a significance to that?
Yes. We are remembering every part of Bhagwan's body and remembering the significance of each one. So we start with the toes, then we go on to the knees and then the wrists and so on. And every organ, the dua of that depicts why all those are important. And the process is to get engrossed in all the different aspects of the greatness of Tirthankar Bhagwan and remembering them. And you do those on all those 9 uh, different areas of the body. So they all have a significance. I mean, when we go to the temple, we can read about the uh, the duas of all those 9 angs that we do the puja on, and that will make it clearer. But there is quite a lot of detail there as well. Does that?
Mira, do you have any questions from your side?
No, I haven't received any questions.
Okay. Sorry, Ajit Bhai, one more question from me. I have seen when I've gone to the temple that the swastik that you have shown us, people do it in different styles. Is there
Yes.
a meaning to different styles of swastik?
There are many different ways in which the swastik is done. There is something called Nanda Vart. They are done in different shapes. They all these rituals are means of getting your mind focused and concentrating on an act with that will help purify and stabilize your thoughts and get engrossed with Tirthankar Bhagwan. But the more complex they are, the more obviously difficult and requiring concentration. There are some very skillful people who can do it in different styles. The one which is quite elaborate is called a Nanda Vart, but that can be done as a square. I've seen it being done in circles. So there are, and some of them are quite elaborate. So people have done them on many different ways. Nanda Vart is a particular symbol as well. But most of us would stick to the four-pronged swastika that I showed there. But especially during other big pujas and during the 9 days of the Aimbil, a lot of the uh, depictions with rice grains are actually very elaborate.
We've just had a question in. Why should we not take any consumables to the Derasar?
Because where you are entering the presence of Tirthankar Bhagwan, everything that you are taking with you is something that you would consider as having been served to Bhagwan Mahavir, and you don't eat what you served. So in Jainism, whatever we lay down in the temple, the food stuff, Jains would not use it. So that is given to anybody else who may not be following the path, but we do not, Jains themselves would not consume anything like that. And anything that you might have in your uh, bags or your pocket, you don't want to consume that back because uh, you would consider as having been served or handed over to the Tirthankar Bhagwans, and you wouldn't, something that you already given, you don't want to take it back. So that's why we don't actually take any consumables, because those are things that we would consume on a daily basis. We are not talking about obviously our clothes and small things that we might have in our pockets, but generally the prescription is that we should enter the temple without anything else that might remind us of our lives outside the temple. So you want to be there with a completely free and completely devoted time where there is no other thought that can sort of bother us. However, that is very difficult for most of us because even while we are doing Chaityavandan, we are often thinking about all kinds of things that we've got to do that is still pending or that we got to go. But one of the things that we need to be careful about that when we are in the temple, we should not be greeting each other. We should not be saying hello to each other, even if we've not seen them for a long time. Any talk that is not of worship should is to be avoided in the temple. So in the temple, a lot of us sometimes say hello to each other during Paryushan and during Diwali. We might say Happy Diwali or Nutan Varshna Abhinandan. We should leave all those things for the time when we get out and should avoid doing anything else inside the temple that is not of worship.
Another question that I think you already answered, what happens to the rice, sweets and fruit used in the puja? Just to clarify, that goes to people who do not believe in the Jain faith. So it is given as donation?
Yes, yes, yeah. So that is obviously given away. I mean, it's much easier, obviously, in India and countries where there are lots of poor people around. But here it's obviously a bit more difficult. But I'm not sure exactly what happens here and how. I'm sure Jayeshwai will be able to explain this to us and what the arrangements are.
There is a question about is there particular flowers and fruits that we are allowed or not allowed to use?
The general guidance is the best. So flowers, not flowers which are not yet ripe or fully opened up. So you would not generally use a flower in a bud form. You would use a flower which is fully open. And there is also an important aspect of collecting the flower. You would ensure that you are very careful, you do the minimum harm, you pick up a flower which is uh, not very far away from falling off. So some flower which is fully formed, and you would cut it gently and with care, ensuring that you are not harming any other insects that may be lying there. So that is about the flowers, and generally those are flowers which have got a good perfume in them. There are certain flowers which are considered to be of high quality or caliber. Those are generally prescribed. I'm not completely familiar with all the ones that are allowed or not allowed. There is a particular book that those of you who might want to refer to called Shrad Vidhi, which describes all the uh, daily rituals of Jain householder, and it has got daily and annual rituals and lifetime rituals that are things that one householder should conduct. So there is a great detailed description of all this, and a lot of the questions that you're asking, the answers to those are available in Sradvidi, but we can explore that at a different time in the future. But that is another 10-20 weeks of very patient listening and exploring. But we can go through a lot of those questions at some stage in the future.
Ajit Bhai, my understanding was that a flower which does not bear seeds and fruits with less seeds in it are always acceptable. But that was my daddy's telling me about that.
I mean, fruits, you would generally use you not usually use what is called tuch far, meaning small fruits. So that is right. So large fruits with few seeds, not many seeds. So generally you would have, say, things like apple, orange, commonly. That's what, or in banana, people bring those. But you would not, say, bring fruits like berries. Generally, those fruits are not generally used. You can use big fruits like coconuts in some pujas.
Yeah. I think let's take this final question. When we go into the Derasar, there is one statue on the left and one on the right towards the back wall away from the Tirthankars. Which gods are they, please?
So in Potus Bar, we've got Bhagwan Mahavir in the center. And then I think on one side we got Bhagwan Parshanath, and on the other side Bhagwan Rishabdev. I think I may be mistaken, so please correct me if somebody
I
knows for
think
sure.
what they were asking, I think they were asking about the Mataji's Murti at the back, and then the Ganteshwar Maharaj's Murti on the side as well.
Yeah, so we got Padmavati Mata at the back on one side and Gantakarana Mahavir on the other side. In some temples, say for example in Kenton Derasar, there is a separate room for Gantakarana Mahavir, Nakoda Bhairav, and Manibhadra Veer. So there's a separate room for all those three, but there is murtis of Saraswati Devi and of Padmavati Devi inside the temple in Kenton. But in all temples, you would also have images of the places of pilgrimage. So in Potus Bar, we've got the image of, I think, Satrunjay or Palitana and on one side and Girnar on the other side. But in some places in Kenton, there are the images of all the 5 important holy places: Abu, Astapad, Girnar, Samet Sikar, and Satrunjay. So in Kenton, you got those as well. In other temples, if you go to visit in India, there are pictures from the lives of Tirthankar Bhagwans depicted on the walls inside or sometimes outside. So there's a lot of illustration there as well.
Just to clarify, the Padmavati Mataji Murti and I think Bhavna Ben has told us that it's Manibhadra Veer at Potus Bar.
In Potus Bar, yeah, okay.
They are the Rakshak of the temple.
Yes, they are the devs which look after the Tirth with the Sasan, the Sasan Rakshak Dev. They help and look after us as well, the devotees. So they are devs who. So Padmavati Mata was from the time of Bhagwan Parshanath, Dharanendra and Padmavati. So she is worshipped in lots of places and is said to be very alert to the needs of devotees. So there is more importance, and you would generally see there are a lot more temples devoted to Bhagwan Parshanath all over the world and even in India. But Padmavati Mata is particularly depicted in almost all temples.
Thank you, Ajit Bhai. I think that is all the questions for today. If we want to bring the session to an end, we can do so.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. I ask for forgiveness for anything that I might have said, I may have said, that's against the teachings of Jain Dharma and our Tirthankar Bhagwans. I say that Manujan Kaya Kari Tasmichami Dukadam Sarvamangala Mangalyam Sarvakalyana Karanam Pradhanam Sarvadharmanam Jainam Jyati Sasanam. See you all next week. Thank you.
मंत्र